Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? Welcome to Monday Night Live here with none other than Shug here.
Did you say live?
We are live.
I better get my
Woo,
paintball plan
buddy.
together. Woo, buddy.
Yes, sir. So everybody knows the one and only Shug, I'm sure. So if you don't know, I appreciate it. And he would appreciate it if you'd go check out his channel, subscribe to him, and tell him I sent you over. And he's gracious to be here with us tonight. Thank you for that, Shug.
Oh, glad to be here talking about hammocks, and it's a subject that I really never get tired of.
Yeah, me either. It's definitely my passion. On my channel, I do a little bit of everything, and I know you do too. You
Yeah,
hike and do other things. I know you were in the circus and you're a musician. You like to barbecue. I loved your birthday barbecue. That was
oh,
great.
yeah, that came
So,
out good. I ate that barbecue for a week and still wasn't sick of it. But I think a channel has to reflect your personality.
mhm.
You have kind of your main topic. But if you're the kind of person that, like, I wanted to sort of show a little bit more of myself, and sometimes people go, well, I don't like watching your control line videos. And I go, you don't have to watch them. There's not a rule. Just don't watch it. You know, how about you comment on the videos that you watch? Because you never do that. You just comment on the videos that you don't like. So let's come on, man.
Yep.
You're free to skip the airplane videos, but I have a lot of people. I just uploaded one right now. I haven't put it live, but I have actually a lot of people that watch those in that small community of control line model airplane flying. So there you go.
Yep. A good variety is always good. I
I
was going
think.
to say hi to a couple people here. Ozarks Woodsman's in. Hey, Matt, how are you doing tonight? Hey, Randy, I appreciate you coming in, brother.
Hey, Randy
Uh,
Woodsman. Hello.
Herbert T Outdoors, Dan, he's in the house. We got mainly off grid, and I think that's it for now. So nobody else is chatting around, and everybody say hi to Shug. We've got a good outline here tonight. The topic's
Have
going to
some
be
hammock
advanced.
stuff.
Yep, advanced hammock setup and essential gear. So um, we're going to go over that, and after we kind of go through that, if anybody has, I mean, if they want to throw some questions in the midst of the interview, that's fine too. I think we can throw them in there.
I actually really like that because sometimes you wonder if you're actually telling people what they want to hear, and sometimes they want to ask you like a specific, and then you can get right to it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Simply Explo. I met him during Tony's meetup at Pennsylvania. Really cool guy. So thank you for coming in tonight.
Oh yeah, good.
Yep, really nice guy. So okay, um, everybody knows Shug. Everybody knows your
Well,
call
do you
sign.
do you really know me? Sit around
Hey,
a
man.
campfire with me, and you'll meet the real me.
Yep,
I mean,
yeah.
this
We got
is the
the
real me, but I always tell people, we have to project on YouTube kind of a. I always tell people it is me all the way. If you meet me, this is who you're going to meet, except for maybe around the campfire, I'm just a little bit dirtier. And I'm not just talking about mud on my boots. I'm just going, but I always approach YouTube like I did my show when I did shows, is I didn't put, any swearing or uh, sexual stuff or politics or religion because, then you're going to lose some of your audience. And there was a man that made a comment once about my videos years ago that said, I like your videos. You never drop an F bomb. Uh, and I can watch your video with my 6-year-old daughter on my lap. And I took that to heart and went, that's a good thing to know.
yeah, very good
Yeah.
indeed. Well, if you don't mind, we'll just get right into the interview. And like I said, if anybody has any questions, throw them out there, and we'll try to throw them in as we go.
Sounds good.
So, of course, general knowledge is the first topic I think we're going to hit on. And what's the difference, in your opinion, between a beginner and an advanced hammock setup?
I think I always recommend to the beginner or the hammock curious, they want to try one. I'll say, well, don't invest a lot in it right off the bat. You can get these hammocks on Amazon for 34 bucks. I was just in the hang in Denmark at the end of April. It was the second HangCon Europe. And
Yep.
actually the owners and creators of one-wind hammocks were there from China. So I got to meet them, and my brother-in-law just last week has been slowly getting interested, and he wanted to know, like, I don't want to spend a lot of money if I don't like it. I said, I would recommend the one wind. It's $74. You get your suspension. I met them. We talked about their fabrics. It's not going to be a super short hammock. You can get one for 35, and you might get lucky and get a good one. And he got it, and he loved it. And it came with a tarp.
Yeah.
For $74 to get a tarp. And I'll tell you this, I really looked them over, and they were decent quality, really good quality. In fact, she's sending me some because I said I would like to show my viewers this, because like if you're the parent of a Boy Scout or a Boy Scout that has to buy his own camping gear and your troop allows hammocks, you're not going to go get a $290 hammock.
No.
But you might can mow enough lawns and, well, no, that's right. Kids don't do that anymore, do they? You could come up with something. I don't know, do your influencer thing and come up with $80 and get yourself a rig. So I think there's really a place for that. So I would say for the beginner, it's not worrying about under quilts. It's get a hammock, throw a pad in it. You got to start going through your experimentation, and kind of, if you can't afford a tarp, get yourself, like, just go to Home Depot or something and get a 10 by 12 tarp that we put over our wood piles and just rig that up, and you got a tarp, but it'll get you started on putting out your guy lines and rigging it over a hammock. So I think that's the difference to me. The beginner is still in their infancy of kind of discovery. And I think once you get to, what was the question? Advanced hammock. Well, by then you've made some choices. I would say it's like, it's like me buying musical instruments. You want to try a few. You're looking for your groove, you might want to upgrade. You might just like USA made. You're just curious about the pickup. So hammocks are much the same way. So in a nutshell, I would say it's just that. Getting simple, maybe not even dealing with a bug net yet. Throw your pad in, learn to hang that thing correctly, learn to get comfortable, and get over the feeling of what people always tell me. They feel a little exposed at first. Some people, like something's going to get them because they're hanging in the air. And it's valid. I get that. And some of them feel a little, they're used to being in a tent and being shoulder to shoulder with their buddy or their wife. So now they're in their little introvert zone. And some people don't like the movement of the hammock. And I always go, just put your hand down on the ground and stop it. I personally like the rock. So that's what I would say on that one.
That's good. And it's funny you said one wind, because that's the setup I got, because Tony got it, ended up getting one, and I got it. It is a good, I would say beginner or even intermediate.
I would say intermediate too. The fabric's nice. I laid in Kevin's, my brother-in-law's. I was showing him how to lay, and I was going, this is actually a very comfortable hammock. It's ripstop. It's long enough. It's not too wide. It's not too narrow. I thought it was very, very good. I was really, really tickled to see their quality after meeting them.
Yeah, I like their buckle suspension and all that. I mean, it is a good value for a person just starting out too. I mean, like you say, just buy a $30 hammock and get a 10 or 10 and a half foot. I tell people try to get a little bit longer one, but just play with it. Those are good answers.
See what you're in for a little bit. Yep. And I'll tell you, the Isabel and Terry, that's their sort of American Chinese names. She told me, she gave me a gift, and she said when she started, they made material for people. They made the fabric, and they made a bunch of fabric for someone that was a little wider, and they only needed so much. They had all this fabric. So they said, why don't we start making hammocks? And she actually told me, and not to toot my own horn, but nothing I like better than talking about me, old Shug, the third person. But she said, she honored me. She said, I actually watched your videos. And she said, a big reason was you had info, but she could understand me. She said, you pronunciate. Because I told her, I said, well, my Irish mother would box me ears. If I sat there mumble like, ow, So that was interesting to learn. You're always learning something different in this world.
Exactly. I'm going to say hi to a few more people that came in here. You might know Skeeter. Skeeter's in here. Hey, brother. Who else? Hammock Mountain. Of course, you probably know Hammock Mountain.
I met him.
He
Yeah, we were
said,
down at a hang con, and Tony too. I met a bunch of that group. They were
yeah,
very nice people.
PA Outdoor Couple. They were there at the meetup at Pennsylvania. I get to meet them. Super good couple from Pennsylvania. They're
Hey,
in
y'all.
here. Welcome in, guys. I appreciate you stopping in. Let's see. Any questions so far? Mainly Off Grid said, yeah, he blew $450 on Hammock. It's incredible. Haha. I'm very impulsive. That's a great advanced hammock for sure.
It is. I'll tell you, and I'll tell people this all the time. I get a lot of gear for free. I don't hustle gear. I've never in my whole YouTube thing reached out to someone and asked them for gear. It's usually offered to me.
Yep.
And I love the people that will offer. We'd love for you to test our hammock. Now, no video required. And I love that, because if they say that, well, then of course I'll do a video. But if they give me a bunch of parameters, I'm like, now you're making it a job. But Jonas from Hammock sent me one of his first iterations of it. And I said, yes, I will accept, because it looks very different than anything I've seen. So I'm curious. And I take it out maybe twice a year it's like taking out your 1966 Falcon on Sunday. You just want, and I just want to look at a nice dashboard and cruise around, But I use it a lot when I'm in it. You put it up in the recliner chair mode. It's fantastic to hang out for the day by a river. And often in my backyard, if I have to make a bunch of phone calls, I'll sort of wait for, a 4-hour period and make one call after the other. I rig that thing up. I go sit back there, way back where I do my hammock videos, comfortable. I can focus and just look at the birds and stare at my wood pile and my old hillbilly barbecue cooker going, man, I need to throw some butts on there and cook me some meat. But I would say that is a hammock. For some people, it's their go-to because they can lay flat.
Yep.
It is dependent on a pad, but we all have different tastes in the hammock world. And I was saying this a lot at the last 2 hang cons, that tent people really, there's not much you can do to modify your tent to your personal liking. But with your hammocks, you can kind of, I think we're always looking, well, my buddy just got a war bonnet, so I think I'm going to get something cooler like the hammock, because I don't want to get what he got. I think my hammock will be cooler. And so, if you can afford it and you want that sort of different hammock in your armada, the hammock is really great. It takes some practice getting in and out, but it's got a lot of benefits. So good for that guy. I think it's fun, and I like having one.
Yeah. Good question here before we get into the next part of the general equipment.
The test he gave me.
Everybody knows.
I don't even know the answer to that. I'm gonna have to lie, make something up.
Randy from Ozark's Great Adventure says, Shug, are you one that falls asleep pretty easily anywhere you are?
I used to not. I would say 10 years ago, I used to lay in bed when my wife and we have a select comfort bed. I lay there and think, I would be thinking about page 2, what tomorrow is and everything. But now that I'm 67, and I would say when I got to be 57, 58, I've become a guy that falls asleep right away. I may wake up at 5:45 in the morning with my day on my mind, but it's never dread. I'm excited to get up for the day. I never thought I'd be a guy that gets up at 5:30 or 6, but I can't wait to get up and have an hour of coffee, answer a few YouTube things, play my bass for like 45 minutes to an hour, just do my grunt work, just do all my scales, work the modes, just get that going. And I look forward to the day. And when I'm in the hammock camping, it's the opposite. It's like, I don't want to wake up or get out. But I very rarely, even camping, lay there in the hammock very long and think. It's that I was telling Corey from Majestic Hammocks, I said, listen when everybody crawls in tonight, because you'll hear everybody squirming, and then you hear this big, spot, and you're tucked in right and everything's good. You hear it and you're just good. And I know I'll be asleep within, 5 or 10 minutes.
Yep. That's about the way I am too. Hammock's a whole new thing for me. I mean, it's so hard to get. You have to spend good money on a mattress in your tent and everything, and on the ground. I mean, I like the sway. It rocks you to sleep, and everything about it.
Bed, -40 winter pad I haven't used in years. I spent almost $300, but
Oh man.
you have to go through your steps in camping of dirt bagging it, getting stuff, going ultralight, going ultra heavy, all the things till you find somewhere, if you're lucky enough to find it, the one you like. But I tell people the problem with the hammock, I'm going, if you're one of these people that wants to get up at crack of dawn and get on the trail,
Yep.
you might not, because you're going to be pretty comfortable once you get dialed in. You're going to, man, I don't want to get up yet, get my food bag in the dark. I'm gonna rack out for another 45, because you just feel so good. And it's, for me, honestly, I just wanted to say this real quick, is what it restores my body. It has a restorative nature that just, I feel like a 47-year-old when I wake up.
Yep.
Like ready to go.
Yep. I put up on the screen. It might be easier for you to read too. Next question I think is a good one, and Simply Expo Venturing's asking, what is the most basic hammock to invest in? So I think you might.
I think it's what we talked about, but you
Yeah.
you could go to Dutchware Gear and just get his most simple hammock, no bug net, no suspension. Or I did a video probably 5-6 years ago where I said, curious about these Amazon hammocks. So I ordered like a $29 hammock, and I did a video on it, and my thing was going, it's a good hammock. Now, if you're a pro or advanced, you may find some faults in the length or something, but if you don't know hammocks and you just want to try it, and your only experience has been laying in your mom and dad's Polly Island beach hammock, which will sort of give you, laying in the backyard, you will kind of get a hyperextended knee after 2 hours of there. But you just get the most basic hammock you can get, no bug net. If it comes with a suspension and tree straps, great. Most do these days. And just learn to hang it right. And I have videos on that. I made sure to do. I have an updated one. I have an old one of just hanging the hammock right. Don't be thinking ahead to all the other things yet. Just get that right. And once you've got the hammock right, then you start working on your insulation, and do you need a ridge line, and your tarps, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning earlier about writing down a few of your good, because I mean that's where I learned. Minnesota Mike is another one of our.
Oh yeah, I've camped with him.
Yeah, he me and him are big Shug fans, so we've learned a lot of our hammock information from you. I mean, search on the internet, on YouTube, you're going to find your videos.
Personally, I'm quite sick of Shug. You try being him for a while.
A lot of work, huh?
Well, I see the next question is about the Majestic. Hammock Mountain, he's getting a Majestic coming, and it's funny. I was just talking with Corey, the builder and designer, last night. We were debriefing the European hang. We hadn't had a real good chance to just talk about what we all went through, the different experiences. And he's got he's a one-man shop. He has a lot of orders. He makes it plain on his site. I think he's 4 or 5 months out now if you order one. But, in that realm, some people hate that. But, if you get a custom base built, or get a custom knife made, or anything custom, sometimes things take a year, But he's going to, hey, Hammock Mountain, you're going to sleep good in that, because I'm going on a canoe trip June 11th, a solo canoe trip up in the Boundary Waters. And I'm bringing my Majestic. And I brought it to Denmark, and I brought it to Hancom, Florida. And it wasn't because I'd be seeing Corey a lot. It's because it's a super comfortable hammock. Really, really, I'd say of all my hammocks right now, it is the most comfortable. It's a little wider, but it's just has no pressure points. There's a little pocket. I sleep with my head to the right, feet to left. And you know how if the hammock is too thin and your old man heels are pressed up against each other, against that foot end, you don't get that in this. My outside foot drops down in this little pocket. I tell you, it's so nice to have like this much separation between my heels. So you will sleep well in that. Definitely.
Yeah. I've watched all the hang con videos and everybody talking about laying in it. Like Tony told me, if I laid in one, I'd want one. And of course,
absolutely.
Yeah. I've got one more question from Herbert, but it's kind of probably going to get answered in this next question I've got for you. So
Well, I
Um,
do, Herbert. I do winter camp. I live in Minnesota, and I winter camp a lot. And I've slept in my hammock in minus 40 degrees, and it might have gotten colder, but my thermometer hit its lower limit at mighty, at minus 40. And I just did it because I wanted to see if it could be done in a hammock, because people said, "Oh, no way." And I'm going, I think I can. I mean, I don't think I'll die because I have winter experience. So let's wait and answer that when we get to that, because I have a lot of thoughts and some things on that, because it's slightly complex answer. If you're cool with that, Herbert. Herbert T Outdoors. I like that.
he's pretty he's pretty mellow, so I think he'll be all right with it. He's a pretty cool cat. Um, so the next question, of course, you've got it. Can you walk us through the ideal camping setup for different environments, like spring, summer, and winter, obviously?
Well, I'm kind of going through that now. I'm grabbing some gear out for this canoe trip. And the boundary waters can get a little chilly at night in June. I go
Yep.
back and look at some of my old videos of going, oh yeah, I need to pack that down vest because it can be kind of brisk in the morning. So
Yep.
it's spring, there will be bugs. So I'll have a bug net. And since I'm bringing the Majestic, Corey's bug net that he sells with it is a bottom entry, because,
Uh-huh.
and some people go, he'd sell a lot more if it was a zip on. I go, I know he would, but what I love about one of my joys having a YouTube channel and being Shug and kind of just, I'm loyal to certain people. I don't take on everybody because you can't spread
Yep.
yourself too thin. But stuff I like, I like. And I'm going, I would love to show you. I'm not a big box, I'm not going to show, I'm not going to do a bunch of stuff on Enos and all the ones you can buy anywhere. I'm looking for these true little hammock designers that are working out of their garages.
Yep.
So he's convinced that if he sews a bug net with a zipper on his Majestic hammock, it will affect the lay with the stresses. And I agree.
Yep.
And then he's also a one-man shop, so it sort of complicates his setup with zippers, and it would cost a little bit more because of adding zippers. But I do this thing called breakfast from the hammock. My thing in the morning is sitting up, having my coffee and my Pop-Tart and some grits while in my hammock.
Yeah.
That's always been, it's the reason I got into hammocks, was looking for a comfortable way to have coffee in the morning without having to get up and go walk out by a cold fire pit, sit on a cold stump, but to get my stuff and be like in my top quilt and be just snug. So with his, I can kind of, with the bottom entry, I can finagle it over. And people have asked me, well, if we designed a Shug hammock, what would it be? I go, most important thing, because I sit way back, I raise my foot in when I go get my food bag, just that much. So I'm sliding back. I even did a video on sitting up in the hammock because
Yep.
people ask me, how do you do that? Well, you got to engage the core. It's years of sit-ups and crunches. And it kind of is, but you get really relaxed, but I can't have anything touching my head or the top of my head touching a ridge line. And I want to be free of the bug net.
Yep.
So that's why a zipper one is good. But I met a guy in Florida. Some of you guys might have met him down there at the Hang Con, Mountain Man Matt. And he's a small manufacturer, and I got to know him, and he had made himself a bug net like I did when I first started, where the one end by your head that draws in with a draw, you can open it up till it's like this big and just pull the whole thing over your hammock without emptying it to get it out of my way.
Yep.
So I'm bringing that. So that's one of my little personal quirks. Nothing can be touching me. Those little things they sew on hammocks. It's like
Yep.
a little, that's supposed to keep, the bug net from having a gap that big. I always cut them out because they touch my head. Because they're not structural. I mean, I don't mind a couple of mosquitoes in my bug net. They're always at the top, and it's just a battle you're going to lose. So I'm going through my spring setup, and I'm probably bringing like I'm trying to decide if I'm going to bring a 40 or a Franken quilt, which is 20, but I can hang it looser. But I'll be checking the temps. So then summer, when I camp, that's totally my old Wilderness Logic sewn through baffle, 40 degree. It's just enough. Bug net for sure. I bring the Thermacell backpacker thing. Yep. Those things are great. They're not heavy. So when I open my bug net in the morning for having breakfast from the hammock and my Medagliadoro instant espresso, I can crank that thing on, and within 10 minutes, all the mosquitoes are out here. They're
That's
10
good.
feet away from me, watching me. There's
Yep.
always that one that comes in, that's just got to kamikaze you. But I respect that mosquito. But
Yep.
so summer is, it's hot. So I'm thinking of smaller tarp, unless my Black Crow, my DIY Black Crow, unless there's going to be storms. And then winter is going full Superior Gear hammock, double under quilts. I'm saying this is when I'm going down into sub-zero weather.
Yep.
And I'll just say real quick something. We've had winter hangs up here where people see us doing it, and I think we make it look too fun sometimes. So I'll PM people and go, I know all of your focus is on your hammock and sleeping good, but do not forget your daytime hanging around clothes and your footwear, and bring a piece of foam to stand on, because you're going to be down talking to everybody most of the day until you crawl in. So you have to watch that too. Clothing system is not the sexiest thing to talk about in camping, but it's one of the most important, summer or winter,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That was an exhausting answer.
I mean, it's accurate. Dressing, I mean, is just as important as your gear. I mean, your food, being prepared. I mean, that's what I always say on these lives is your safety is just as important as your gear, and that's part of it. So
much, and really, it's this strange thing. Like I was talking, my talk in Denmark is about, you look at a hammock hanging between two trees and it looks so simple, yet some people get mad when I use the word complex, but once you start assembling your camping rig, it is complex. There's so many components to deal with, and sometimes people will get in touch with me and they kind of crack. They go, it's too much. I'm going, well, making you cry. Just go back to your tent. You should not. It shouldn't be that kind of experience for you. It appeals to certain people, and I have found so many people it appeals to are engineer types and artists, because it's the fiddly diddly, it's the messing. It's like we're essentially going out. I tell people, go, look, I'm a grown man, 67 years old, but I have the mind of a 14-year-old boy. So when I go out camping, I'm just playing with my toys, man. Just playing with my toys.
Having fun.
And looking for a dirt clod fight. Which never seem to break out much anymore. But
well, that's some good information. I'm sure everybody appreciated that. That was great. That's exactly why I wanted you on here. I knew exactly.
Hey, you're welcome, everybody. My pleasure.
All right. The next segment, of course, is gear and equipment. So the first question would be, what are the most important features to look for in a high quality hammock? You kind of answered that a little bit, but you can
I actually jotted down some of my own notes, and this is, I wanted to do well on your exam here. And I was thinking about it, and I think when you get a high quality, and I'm talking, you go with most of the manufacturers, in Dutchware or Hammockgear, or you go with Majestic, Superior Gear. Nowadays, people give you a lot, or at least several fabric choices. I think Corey at Hammockgear, you get 2 fabric choices, but other places, Dream Hammock and some of these places, you might get 6 or 7 choices of what kind of fabric your hammock's going to be made out. And most people don't know that. I did a video on hammock fabrics once. It was the most difficult video I ever did, because I realized I don't know. I didn't even know why ripstop was ripstop, to stop the tear a little bit, but I studied for a week on fabrics, and I will usually tell people to go to Ripstop by the Roll site, peruse around their hammock fabric section and read the descriptions. It'll give you a lot of information about, is it slippery? Has it got a little grip? What's the weight? Is it soft? Is it tight? Would you want a double layer? You're going to be happy with a single. So I think with what you said, the high quality hammocks, you have the fabric choice. You also have a lot of color choices. And color is important to people.
Yep, it is.
I love, like, Jacks Are Better or War Bonnet. I love the companies that only give you a couple of choices. They go, that's what we like. That's what you're going to get. I don't like anything pink or snakeskin. Good. That it's their company. You can't kowtow to everybody's needs.
That's
right. Have to somewhere draw the line. But there's other companies that'll give you so many choices. Hammockgear does that. Adam's company. You've got a lot of choices in fabrics and colors. So if that's important to you, I think you get into your advanced thing, you're going to go, it's like my musical instruments, the aesthetic of a particular instrument, looking at it to me is very important because it makes me want to pick it up more. It's like
Yep.
hugging my wife, it's just it appeals to me. So, and then I wrote lengths, I think advanced hammocks are going to give you more choices in lengths, a 10 foot, 10.5, 11, up to a 12, and some people 13. And that may confuse you. So somewhere you just got to make a choice depending on your height. And, I
That
always tell people, if you're 6 feet, if you're getting a majestic hammock and you're 6 feet, mine is a 10.5 and it's tons of room. Other ones might be a little tight. So, it's like you're going to have to kind of maybe buy and sell a little bit too to really find out. So you get those choices. And then some come with a lot of suspension options, like maybe an ultra light, like Superior Gear gives you what they call their Elite, a very light whoopee sling type of tree strap, what they would call an ultralight option. Otherwise, if you get the regular one, it's a big Dyneema strap with a buckle. It's easy. It works great. So you'll get a little bit more of those choices. And then bug net designs, zip on, underneath, none. And then there's the question of these days, some wait times. If you're going to get from some companies, and most of them list it, because I always tell my hammock maker friends, I go, answer people that ask you about the stuff. Just give them an answer, or if they put a thread on hammock forums about, I didn't get it, I will contact them and go, you need to go on hammock forums and put this fire out. And then everybody's cool because they just want to hear from you, so I think that in a nutshell is kind of when you get into a high quality, you just get more options, more choices, going to cost you a little more usually.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see the question from Simply Explo Venturing. He says, I'm 5'7". What length should I get? And
I think at 5'7", you could go with a 10.5 or 11. And I'll tell you this, here's the experience. When I got my first Blackbird, when I was pretty new to this, I got a 10-footer and it felt great. And then there was all the talk on hammock forums. And I get a lot of my information from hammock forums because I can see what the problem of the week is, or what people are wrestling with, or what the talk is, and go, maybe I could do a video on that, or it makes me think about it. So then I went to the 11-foot hammock and was really happy. But when I got my Majestic from Corey, he suggested I get a 10.5 in his hammock, and it's plenty of room. So it's a little subjective, but I would say if you were 5'7"?
Yes.
Maybe, it never hurts to go with an 11. But you had mentioned a 10.5, and that may be plenty for you. And the hardest thing about hammocks, I always tell people, I go, you might only own one tent, but when you start getting into hammocks, you're probably going to end up having more than one.
Yes.
They kind of just have that desire, like you're just curious to try this one, because we're wearing our hammocks like a little suit. You're laying in a tent on a pad, but your hammock, you actually get in. I feel like I'm becoming a part of it. We're bonding together, So I would say you're just going to have to make a call. I would go with an 11 because it may be perfect for you. It might not cramp your feet up so much.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I suggest everybody. And the width kind of makes a difference too. But like Corey says, too much material he doesn't want to his side blocking your view either.
No, and he's got the tighteners, but his hammock I think his is 68. And then when I use the Superior Gear hammocks, because he's got the built-in underquilt, it naturally makes the hammock a little thinner. So you have, a little less wide. And my friend Jonah got one. We were winter camping this year. He's going, my feet were coming out the end. I said, just try laying at a little less of an angle. And I said, but what I love about the Superior Gear is I've got all this view. But when I use the Majestic, like at these hangs, I can stay up in porch mode and have just a little wall. Because I'll tell you what happens with me. It's happened with me before. I'll be at a hang and I wake up and there's just 5 people just standing there staring at me about 10 feet away because they brought me a candy bar or something. I'm like, ah! It's like you wake up and people are like, the weirdest thing. Guys, I'm going to go pee over here. You want to come with me and watch? Because maybe you'll learn something. But Uh, so those, those little factors come in,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Hammock Mountain here said, Shug taught me to slow down and fiddle with my hammock. I sleep much better now. Thanks. So,
I got caught up for about 2 months when I first got into hammocks. There was all this talk about you can be set up faster than your tent friends. It was all about getting set up quickly. And I got
yeah.
out there and going, well, that's totally false. It depends on the campsite. Because
Yep.
I was with some friends where we had kind of an equal split. And we had to really go looking for trees. There was stuff growing between them. And they threw right down on the tent pads and we're sitting down there having a cup of coffee while we're still looking around. But it made me think it's not a competition.
Nope.
It's I mean, the older I get, the slower I set it up. And
Yep.
when I was down at Hancon in Florida, I did a little talk. So there was some people watching me set up. So I purposely just do it slow, like setting on my tarp, and I just go get one stake at a time, and I walk over and swing it on its little string, and just do the one, and I go get another, and I can see you going, Shug's very slow, but it's like. Once I get this done, I'm kind of done. Like I enjoy the setup. I enjoy it. So if you slow down and don't make it a competition and just unless it's raining, of course, but just
Yeah.
enjoy the setup. It's like, and then you can really get it set up nice and you'll probably tweak it 5 other times throughout the day. It's like, you might have your tarp high, you go to sleep. There's some weather coming in. I tell people a tarp is movable. Just bring it down the tree, restake your stakes a little bit. It takes
Yep.
3 minutes and then you're tucked away,
Exactly. Yep. Randy here from Ozark's Great Adventures. He's like, he bought his first ever hammock. It's a Sun Year on Amazon about 2 months ago, still in the box. We're planning on going down to Mark Twain National Forest and doing a hammock camp so I can.
I don't know the Sun Year, but is Ozark Great Adventures a hammock camper or is this going to be new to him?
It's new to him. I let him sleep in my Crew hybrid hammock, which that's a hybrid flat lay hammock as well. And with that hammock is a really good hammock, but you have to know your center of gravity in that one. It's real tipsy if you're not in the center. So
right. I mean, we are in the air a little bit, and that gives. I think all of us have fallen out of our hammock, and I've had so many good falls out of my hammock when my camera wasn't running, and I'm just going, that's a loss.
Yeah.
Well, good. I mean, hey, enjoy that hammock. I'll tell you this right away. It's what I tell everybody, and I've learned the one word that you need to keep in mind when you get into hammocks is just have patience and say, just be patient with it and learn one element at a time. And if you have anybody there that knows it, like your friend here, who gives you a piece of advice, listen to it and just try it. And it might not feel great the first night. You might feel weird being in the air, but give it 2 or 3 nights. You're either going to love it right away or you're going to go, I don't know, but just give it a couple of trips. Or even if you go backpacking, if you're a backpacker and you walk all day, believe me, you'll fall asleep. But like I said, a lot of people tell me how exposed they feel compared to a tent.
Yep.
And
I always tell people it's kind of a false sense of security. A tent, is not going to keep you any safer, but it lets you not see it. So
exactly. If I can't see it, it's not there.
Yeah.
And what I've always loved about hammocks, the other thing, my second favorite thing beyond my breakfast from the hammock and my medaglia d'oro in the morning is waking up and being able to see the woods, be able to sit. We've all done it. Who hammock, sit under your tarp in a rainstorm, having a cup of coffee and just watching the rain hit all the leaves out there, and you're high and dry. You might be a little misty once in a while, but there is a little bit of a toll to pay if you're going to be a tarper. You can't zip up everything, but boy, is it beautiful. I just love that aspect of it.
Me too. I mean, and then I appreciate that in your videos and your suggestions, because I mean, I've done that from the beginning of hammocking, and that's my first spot when I go to check to put up my hammock is my view, and I always put it in porch mode. Like you said, when the weather gets bad, you can always drop the sides and put it in storm mode. But yeah, you want to wake up to that view for sure.
And someone asked me about that once. I've only had one trip. I was on the Superior Hiking Trail. I was hiking that day, and those days, it's very still. You're hearing that rumbly thunder, right? And you're going, something wicked is coming this way. And I got the camp set up, hung my hammock, and I was just standing there, and I felt the wind just hit me from the front, and then I felt it on my calves. It was just sucking backwards, and I went, oh, the wicked is here. And a 10, 15-minute sideways rain came in, but I said I'd always, when I always say I secure my perimeter in Sector 7, I do. I always look around to places in the woods I could take cover, what's going to fall on me. But I said, I thought about this. I'm going to go just unclip my hammock, put it back in my pack, just anything that all my down. And I just sat in my pack under my tarp, put on my rain gear, smoked a little cigar, sideways rain. It was beautiful. And then it's one of those rains when, right when it stops, the sun comes out and it's just water dripping off the trees. And I just hung it back up. And I'm telling people, you may have to do that, but it's not, it's not like roofing in Florida. You're not up on a roof all day. It's pretty easy work. Unclip, stuff it in your pack, sit there and enjoy the rain.
Yep.
It's part of the tarp life.
Absolutely. Hey, Coal Region Explorer, thanks for stopping in tonight. I appreciate you. Say hello to Shug if you like. Got a lot of information. You might want to go back and check out the rest of the video once it's over. And he's got a lot of information you missed out on, but I'm glad you came in anyways. I guess we'll move on to that next question since I don't want to keep you too terribly late tonight, Shug. I appreciate it.
No, my wife's bringing pizza home.
There you go.
I have to work tonight. Being the retired man, I'm also the chef now.
There you go. That's an important role right there.
It is.
Second question, can you explain the role of suspension systems and the different types available?
Yeah, and I've been doing this in my little talks at these hang cons going, you get a hammock and, your suspension system, it's like your clothing system. It's one of the least sexy parts of a hammock, but we got to have it because it's what's keeping us up in the air. And I did a video. I have a video on suspensions. I did it probably 4 or 5 years ago. And when I started that video, it took a long time because I kept going, oh, now I got to show daisy chain. Oh, I got to show the UCR as well as the whoopee sling. Oh, I got to learn to retie that Beckett hitch knot. I have to, you got strap and buckle, what I like, tree strap, marlin spike, toggle, whoopee sling. That's just one of the first cool suspensions. I just stick with it because I'm emotionally attached to it. I just love it. It did for no other reason. That's why I just love it. I think it's fun to do. And so I went through and it was the Hennessy lash nut. It's probably an 8-part because there's so many and everybody sort of wants, if you have a group of 5 buddies that camp together, everybody's going to kind of want their own suspension. My suspension's better than yours. I have no hardware on it. Yeah, but I can get mine up in like 1.2 seconds quicker than you. It's like an F1 race. It comes down to hundredths of a second. And the thing is, when I started way back, kids, in 2006, you were probably all children. There weren't that many choices, but now in everything hammock, there's so many more choices. Is that a good camera angle right there?
Yeah, that's great.
So many more choices for people that I can see a little bit how they get a little perplexed with what suspension should I choose. I would say get a buckle and strap or a daisy chain and start there. And then, when you have time, check out other people's suspensions and try them, but hook it up right and trust it. And it's what holds you up.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say that's probably, besides your tarp, one of the most important. Well, it's obviously the most important, but tarp definitely, I think, would be the second most important.
Yeah, your shelter. I just thought of this. The suspension is the bass player of hammock camping.
There you go.
You don't have a groove without that suspension. Let me go on a little bit. You ain't sitting there doing this without the suspension. You're just waiting for that keyboard player to that guitar player to shred and do that thing. But the groove is your suspension. All right, I'll shut up now.
No, that's great. I love that. Yep. Hey man, we're laid back on this channel. There's nothing. Even though I've got an outline, I'm pretty laid back.
I love going through this. This is all you really found good questions to ask. These are all everyone you asked that in the test here. They're all very important and get asked to me a lot.
Yeah.
just when I'm talking to someone one-on-one. And if I open the door and go, no, I'm not in a rush. If you want to have any questions or want me to go look at your
Yeah.
rig, I'd be happy to, and
That's good. Yeah.
yeah.
I think a lot of people need it, and it helps because, like you said, I mean, I didn't go through YouTube looking for advice. I just would buy a hammock and not like it and move on. And like you said, I found my groove. Well, I finally found it through your videos, and your suggestions. And like you say, it's custom for every single person.
It
So
is a little bit, just a
yeah,
little bit. And it
yeah,
becomes the longer you stay in it, the more you kind of do that. But that
yeah,
said, I open myself up to new things, but I kind of have to use the word groove again, I've sort of
yeah,
settled on my groove and my setup, but I never, even as an old guy being 67, I told my daughter, I said, my heart is 74% open. The rest of
yeah,
it's hard concrete. Some of the stuff's never going to change, but I'm open to new things and I have to try new things and let some new things in this,
absolutely.
in life, but also in the hammock world and not shut it off. But pretty much my favorite setup is just, that's the one I like,
Yep,
just how I do my camp. And we all end up doing that,
absolutely.
particularly if you've been at it for 6 or 7 years, even
Yep,
stronger.
absolutely. Hey, 12 Stones Adventures, how are you doing tonight? Thanks for coming in, brother. He says hi, Shug.
Hello there. Glad you had a little time to join us talking
Yes,
about our favorite thing.
yes. Hammock camping. He loves all different adventures. He's got a good channel. Let's see here.
Just being in the woods. And just want to say this before I forget, because I've been telling people, I said, this last couple of years when I camped solo, I grew up Catholic. I wouldn't say I'm a really wonderful practicing Catholic. I believe in stuff, but I've started to say it's not even a prayer. It's just more a conversation to the above about thankfulness and
Yep,
being grateful about being able to be out there, still having the health, taking the time to do it. And just like,
yep,
but mainly, and I'm sure most of us on this channel that are talking right now sort of feel a sense of peace in the woods that maybe we don't always feel in the real world. You
yep,
know, just a sense of like, I feel safe here. Some people don't feel safe in the woods, but so we go
yep,
seeking that. And within that, finding our own hammock comfort, it just makes it even, just better.
yep. And that's kind of what going with this question, or not really a question, but they're saying they sleep in the bed of their truck because they feel a bit safer from the critters, And people say, well, I like it, the tent safety, or like I said, false sense of security. That's when you can drop your tarp down and make it feel more like a tent and give you that sense of security too.
Somebody said to me once, they said, Shug, why don't you get a game camera and just sort of
Yep.
put it on your hammock at night and see what comes and visits you? I'm going, oh, I don't want to know. I don't want to, do not want to know. I always hang my food, but I open myself, and I know this sounds kind of hippy dippy, and it kind of is, but I would say it's more, I'm going to put it under more of the kind of Native American way of respecting nature and animals. And I learned the lesson in the circus once. To be really quick, I went in this bar. We were playing Washington, D.C. I got away from the train on my own, which is hard to do in the circus. Went in
Yep.
this bar where I was the only white guy in there. It was just like a movie. I walked in the door with my long red hair and a unicycle, and the record went, ah! And everybody looked, and all the action came back. I went, this is my drinking days. I went and got a beer, sitting there chatting with people, and I felt this big hulking shape behind my left shoulder. And this big man just leaned in across me on the bar. And he didn't even look at me in the eye. He leaned in and said, hey, man, you want to know why you're still here? And I went, yeah, I like that tad of information. He said, you don't come in here with no chip on your shoulder. And that was a lesson I took that night and carry with me in life. And I mean, I
Yep.
carry it in the woods. It's sort of a thing of going, animals show themselves to me a lot, I feel. And I feel like they kind of know I don't have a chip on my shoulder.
Yep.
And maybe showing some respect. We don't like it when you're hollering with buddy too much, but you know what I'm saying? It's just in the overall vibe of that thing. I
Yep.
thank my trees. I ask my trees for permission while I'm looking for widowmakers. It's kind of like, it's like talking to a person. I give it a nice slap in the bark and go, I chose you specially because you're strong and beautiful. And I find you to be a beautiful tree. And I don't know what kind of tree you are, but I have permission to hang off you tonight. And please don't fall on me. And then I go run the same shuck on the next tree. And then when I'm taking my suspension down, I thank them for not falling on me and supporting me through the night. And I don't know, it just feels it's something fun to do. I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but I do it. It's just it's part of that piece. And critters exist, so I know everybody feels different about all of that stuff. So it's your own choice. And I bet I could get in the cab of that truck though and get to your Reese cups.
Yeah,
Without waking you up, I'm very stealthy.
for
Take
sure.
my mouth shut.
Coal Region Explorer, I didn't miss you, buddy. I seen you come in. Sorry I haven't said hi to you. I appreciate you stopping by. I know you was doing he was doing a live earlier too, so he was late coming in. So yeah, that's a good answer there for
I don't know how you live streaming guys do it. You're like multitaskers, sort of like, flying P-50, maybe not a P-50, an F-18 or a Hornet. You got a lot of things going on. I'm a simple man. I'm going to do one thing at a time, but I do it really half-assed.
See, I feel like I don't do the best job in the world, and Randy's like, I think you're really organized and really good at it. And I said, I think I'm horrible, but if I don't be organized, I think I would really be bad at it.
I'm gonna have to try it someday. Just go for it.
I like the interaction with
reference would soon come in.
Yeah, I kind of like it because of the interaction with my subscribers and fellow outdoorsmen. It kind of gives you. That's why I like the premieres, like Hammock Mountain did, and Tony does a lot. It gives you a lot of.
If you have people on there, I got it. I'm going to do that for one of my videos. I never do it, and I should do it. I'm kind of trying to open myself up a little bit more to the cyber crowd now that I'm meeting more people live and in person, like Hammock Mountain. He knew the base would come up, and I'll tell you why. Because in my life, when I have things in my life that bring me pure joy, whether they cost me money or not, but the things I wake up and I go, okay, beyond work, family, life, wife, kids, the ones that are a given. But those things that as a person just bring you just some sort of joy. And getting into the playing bass 2.5 years ago, it's like when you get into hammocks, it changed my little perspective. It took my view where I was looking here and just kind of put it there. Just gave me a new little way to look at life. And it's like time travel for me because I'm going back. I'm still playing the mandolin and always play bluegrass, but now I'm going back and learning the lines on songs I grew up listening to. So it's that. So the things that, it's like good cup of coffee or candy, they'll always come up in my conversations,
Yeah. That's another thing I like about your videos. You always put some music in, and I really enjoy that. And it shows another aspect of your personality. And, it's a touch of personal touch. I just love it. I love that part of your videos. Well,
thanks. I did once. I took some of that music that's kind of royalty free that a lot of people use. It's that real beautiful sort of, the panning, the lakes, and it just didn't fit my style. It was like, God, it made the video really romantic, but I feel like I should be better.
Yeah.
Well, we all do it our own way.
Yeah. Or forget, Ozark's Great Adventures has a good question for you. He says, how hard is it to sleep with a medium-sized dog if he sleeps with you?
I've never done it. I know there's some people that do have their dogs in their hammocks. You have to kind of be a little careful of their claws. So if you have a single layer, it might tear through. So you want a much firmer material and maybe a double layer, and maybe just clip those dog paw nails before you go. But a lot of people I think Dutch sells it. It's a little dog tent that hangs right under your hammock so your dog can be there. But I think I can't answer that one for you. Some people go, my dog keeps me warm like a top quilt. And I'm going, I could see how that could be. I would say just try it. And maybe the dog will be saying to you, giving you that look like, would you mind getting out of the hammock and sleeping on the ground? Because you're affecting my sleep. I'd like to lay in the hammock. You know how the dogs give you that look?
Yep.
Why don't you go sleep in the cab of the truck and I'll sleep in here?
And that's what I always tell people too, that, if you like to be up close to somebody when you're sleeping, or you like to sleep close to your dog, I mean, you'd probably get along fine with it, especially in the wintertime. It'll help keep you warm. So,
And I think
um,
once the dog found the dog spot in the hammock, whether it's going to lay beside you or on top of you or however your dog would sort of lay, I think that dog has to figure out its place in there too. So give it a go. I mean, that's all I can say is just give it a shot, and it might just work perfect.
absolutely. That's
Yeah.
good advice. Hey, Tall Trees, I appreciate you coming in today. I'm doing fine. I hope you're doing all right.
All
Appreciate you
trees. Hey,
stopping in.
buddy.
Let's see here. I ride a bike while I live stream. Coal Region Explorer says, yeah, I recently ran into him at the uh, meetup, Tony's meetup at Knoebels, and yeah, they ride all around Pennsylvania and do live streams. I
While
find it
live
kind of,
streaming. Now, see, that's ultra multitasking there,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, they got some wild areas that they bike in, and it's pretty cool. I like the diversity of our community because I usually stick to the outdoors community and the fishing and that type of stuff, but I mean, I do like venturing out and watching a few other different genres.
Well,
It's
the thing is,
entertaining.
if we're going to make videos and you're going to put videos out or live stream, and when people ask me, and it happens, they'll go, "Could you give me some tips?" And I know they want to get 5,000 subscribers in 3 months. I'm going, that may or may not happen, but
You
I
know?
said, just look into the lens, be you, just be you. Don't try to
Yep,
be anybody else but you, and you'll find, after you put out 10 or 20 videos, you'll become a little bit more you because I think people respect truthfulness. If they watch you, and people that have met me, they go, God, you're pretty much like you are on video. I go, yeah, I am. I'm just a little heightened version on video, like all of us are. We're in front of the class, right? The teacher has called
yep,
us up to do our report. So we got to kind of be just a little bit, but I think it's just being honest and finding your style. And I think people buy into that.
yep,
They'll know if you're BSing.
yep.
They really
Yeah,
will.
and too, that's one thing I love about all the creators I have met, and even the ones that came to the meetup and I met, um, are genuine. They're they were on video, and that goes to tell you. I mean, you can't fake it. You're right. You can't fake it. Once you meet somebody, they're going to say, "Well, this guy was fake," you know.
Yeah, and you
So,
got to be wanting to do this. I've thought about it so many times. My wife will go, "You sure have a lot of friends you've never met, these cyber friends." I go, "Well, yeah." I said, "In a sense, it's weird. I've had subscribers, gosh, from the day I started, and I know their names. I know their little avatar, and they're very loyal and always comment, even if it's great video. And I always try to answer everything. I'll just go, "Well, buddy, appreciate you watching again and again and again and again and again and again." And I've thought sometimes going, do I like these cyber friends because I never have to have lunch with them or have them over to the house? But these videos, like when I was at HangCon Florida this year, it was the first time I went. I always have put off going to these huge hangs because number one, I didn't want people to meet me, and I know there's people that when you do YouTube, they're kind of going, "Oh, that guy's probably a jerk. I'm gonna meet him. He's gonna be a jerk." And maybe they're pleasantly surprised when you go, "I'm
yep,
just a human. This is not a Steven Spielberg film. It's
yep,
YouTube." So just to go and meet people that watch you and are thankful is and I had to learn to accept that at HangCon. By the 17th time in the day when someone's coming up going, "We got into videos into hammocks because of your
yep,
videos," I have to treat
exactly.
them with the same grace that the first person that said it and not diminish my personal enthusiasm. And that was a big
Yep,
lesson for me in life because I'm Irish. We we dream of getting compliments, but we hate them when we get them, if that makes
yep,
any sense. Then we're
ab-
uncomfortable.
absolutely, absolutely. Hammock Mountain says my dog sleeps on my chest in a hammock. She's 15 pounds. Yeah, that's a pretty good sized dog, but not too bad.
No, that's not too bad.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
fun.
yep. All right. Well, I'm gonna step into the next question
All
here.
right.
What kind of tarp setup do you recommend for maximum protection against rain and wind?
here's what I always say on this. It's less about the tarp. If you get a good hammock tarp, whether it's got doors or not, or 6 foot sides or 10 foot sides, if you don't pitch it correctly, then your tarp is not pitched correctly. You could
Absolutely.
take a pretty minimal tarp, like my Black Crow tarp I made, a 11-foot ridge line, basically 7 feet across. So I have like 3.5 on each side. I have never gotten wet in that thing. I can kind of monkey around and sort of make some doors if the wind is coming this way. I just think it's really with your tarps. You get a tarp if you've never been someone to pitch a tarp. I go, more than your hammock, practice tarp pitching. You got to practice in your yard, go to a park. Even if
Yep.
you're out camping and you've pitched your tarp and you're hanging in the spot for the whole day and you're really not doing much but hanging out, but take your tarp down and go pitch it a couple of places and just
Yep.
practice your staking. You got to learn to stake right, your guy lines. Are you going to site selection? If it's blowing a 40-mile-an-hour wind or 40-knot wind and you want to camp out on the point, that might not be the best choice at night. You might have to go back in the woods or get down the hill, or set your tarp up. Some people argue it's best to have your foot and head end into the wind, but then it's kind of blowing through you. But if you've
Yep.
got the side there, it may be blowing in. So you use some tie outs. Like, it's not perfect, but I think it's something that you really have to perfect. So less about the tarp and more about how you learn to pitch it. And it's like, love your tarp and play with it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the wind speed and, like you say, the direction and how you want to,
So much.
yeah, yeah. That's a good answer, though. Hey, Ed Chaos, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you coming in, brother.
Yeah. I will tag to that. Like, when I go on these hang cons now, or like if I go like the Boundary Waters trip, I'll be bringing my Superior Gear tarp, because you can get some weather up there, and it's got a 12-foot ridge line, and it has nice big sides, and all the tie outs clip on, and they've proven their point. I got in a big storm there, not last summer, summer before, and all those little plastic clips held, and it gives me a
Yep.
little more coverage. And then sometimes it's a deal like, if I know I'm going to maybe be camping with strangers, I'll bring a little bit more tarp just for privacy if it's needed, but so I either bring my Black Crow, which is pretty small, or that Superior Gear for the most part. And I use my dedicated. Usually, if it's going to be snow on a winter trip, I use my Superfly that I put an inside pole in, just the one inside, because that's shed snow in Minnesota the best.
Yeah.
So
got all that weight to worry about, your ridgeline sagging and all that.
Well, I found if you're going to get a lot of snow and you use those 2 tarp holders, they have now that you put across your ridge line and put in your tie outs, but they'll make a flat spot and it'll catch a lot of snow and kind of collapse your tarp. But the curved one inside, if I can see snow gather and just tap that tarp, and you hear it go, the little avalanche.
Yeah.
Look out below. So that's for me here.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at Simply Expo Venturing's leaving. I appreciate you coming in tonight, brother, and spending some time with us.
The one string bass catcher. Is that that old style? The Dillard's got that boom, boom, got the broom. Those are great.
All right, Randy, I appreciate you. Hopefully you have a good night, brother.
All right,
Thanks
man.
for coming in.
Take it easy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking that was. Herbert, is that what that was? I'm pretty sure that's what you're meaning.
They cut through, man. I've been to some bluegrass festivals where that's where people played and can play it.
Yep. All right, 2 guys in the Ozarks. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
Hey, Matt.
Appreciate you coming in.
Shug here.
If you have any questions for Shug, he'd be more than happy to answer it. We're going to move on to another question, I think, here. Oh, here we go. 12 Stones has got a good question for you. Wait. We were sure glad you came to HangCon, Ed Chaos says.
I am too. It was I'm coming back again this year. I had that much fun. And bringing my man time.
I'd sure like to come for sure, but I don't know that I'm going to be able to make it, but I'd like to make it sometime
What was really nice about it, the HangCon in Europe in Denmark is part of a big outdoor festival where they have all the um, they have the overlanders, they have the tenters, they have the kayakers, then there's the hammock area. But HangCon in
Yep.
Florida is just hammock, so it's
And,
very
yeah.
hammock specific. Oh, 12 Stones ask him, what kind of bass do you play, Shug? Oh, he's got Ibanez
Yeah.
5 string. Well, I'll tell you what, Friday I went out and I've been looking at it for 3 months. And, certain people bring other things to look at up on their computer to look at. You know what I mean? I bring up pictures of basses, and I've had my eye at Willie's guitars here, Willie's American Guitars, 1978 P bass. That's my era of being young and wild. And it's got kind of a burgundy wine color. And I played it once and it was just low and thumpy. Neck felt great. I walked out of the store, and so I've been checking, and I went and traded in my American made Music Man Sterling Ernie Ball. The guy gave me a good trade in. So now I have a 1978 P bass. And
Wow.
mainly I play that, and I play my G&L SB2 the most. It's kind of in this journey. It's just like how we explore hammocks. I'm coming back to the P bass being my groove at this point in time. It just
Yeah.
does everything I want.
I love listening to you play it. You're really good with it. And like I said, I love that in your videos.
I'm getting better. I've been putting time on it, and I've been going to a garage band jam with two guys my age. One guy with 4 keyboards, one guy with a Gibson SB guitar, and we play pop and rock. And I like these guys because you play like you're playing for an audience, but there's nobody there except for a Model T and some gas cans in a cinder block garage. And I would rather do that than be out playing in a club. It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people are enjoying the bass. A lot of musicians in here tonight, which is great.
Punk
I
band,
don't
folk
I,
punk
I don't
band.
mind getting off topic at all because of that's part of who you are, and hammocks are just a part of who you are, and
Oh,
the music.
I'm gonna write their name down so I can check them out because I'm a big proponent of funk, and if I can see some folk punk funk, uh, might open my eyes. I've learned a few songs now by Rage Against the Machine, Tim Comerford's bass lines, and kind of going, I don't know, that band just slipped past me. I wasn't into it at the time, and people going, that band broke up in 1996. Going, well, you can be a late bloomer.
Yep.
You know, I like me some angry rock or
Yep.
some metal. So maybe it's my time of life. Uh,
Yep.
Fun. I mean, that's part of the joy. Like I talked about the first year I did the Danish hang, not this year, the one before. They asked me to do a talk, and they forgot to remind me. So they said, you're on in 20 minutes. So I went over there the last day, and I was going, I don't want to talk about hammock nuance. I said, the thing to remember is you never know where this hammock that you're buying and using is going to take you beyond a camping trip or a car camping trip or a fishing trip or however you use it. You really never know in life where this thing you get into, where else it's going to deliver you.
Yep.
There's no way you can know. You just have to stay in it and ride it out. So it was like to go to Denmark and accept the fact. And I'll tell you this, I don't even like saying this, but it's hard to come out of my mouth. But I came home and I told my wife, I said, Meg, she said, how was it? I said, I found out I am kind of a big part of the hammock community. They're calling me the OG, and
Yep.
I've never wanted to say that. I'm just a guy, but so many people come up and go, we got the hammocks because of you. And you hear it over and over. And I'm going, these
Yep.
videos must be doing something. They go
Yep.
out there, and you can use this power of video for good. You can use it for bad too, but you can use it for good just to help people and maybe just inspire them. I would say more than anything on my channel, I think that's happened is I've met more men and women, I would say 55 and up, who come to me going, yeah, we go camping now because of you. And I go, it's because you saw this idiot doing and said, if he can do it, I can do it. They said, exactly. It's not rocket science. It's really not rocket science.
Yep.
I'm glad to hear that. Like they need to see someone older than them or their age doing it and expressing joy and showing candy and having coffee and go, I want to do that again. I did that in college. I thought you couldn't do it when you're grown up, but now we got the money to buy stuff. We didn't have that in college.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure. All right. Well, I got one more question from Herbert here. He's saying, what's the maximum strap span do you use for hanging a hammock?
I think I've done I was between some pretty wide trees once. I would say they were probably 25 feet. I've done some long hangs, and it was just to the end of my suspension, and I did a little jury rig, and I always keep one little extra piece of Dyneema strap in my pack. And it was really a long hang. So when you first get in the hammock, you go way down to the ground. So you just
Yep.
got to keep raising the tree straps up the tree. You taking my hiking pole and working them up. And I asked my buddy Hickory, I said, "Come over here, let me get on your shoulders. I got to get that foot." And that's probably my longest, but I would say it's kind of the longer you get, the higher you have to get that suspension up to get your
Yep.
hammock. Like I like mine because I'm a gentleman of a certain age. And when I sit sideways in my hammock, I want my feet on the ground, and I don't want the edge of the hammock digging in my behind my knees. So I'm just at a
Yep.
comfortable height because I'm going to
Yep.
spend some time sitting there having coffee, just kind of staring and mouth breathing and just being in the woods, going, I got all my work done. I'm just going to sit here and just what I always crave to do is I'm just going to go and just be like,
Yep.
let me just be in the woods. I don't have to be doing something all the time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Hey, Chris Schultz, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, Chris.
All right. Are you ready for another question?
Oh yeah, I absolutely.
All right. How do underquilts and top quilts compare to sleeping pads for insulation?
Let me tell you this, kids. I'll just say this. Once you go under quilt, you may never go back to anything else. But we all start with pads because most of us have a
Yep.
pad from I think almost everybody that gets into hammocks has camped before. So you either have a closed cell foam pad or a nice thermarest or whatever it may be. Um, and I always tell people just throw that in your hammock. If it's a blow up pad, just like halfway inflate it. But if you got a closed cell foam, and depending on the night and the moisture and the heat, you'll more than likely get condensation because it's not like it being on the ground. We have that convection. We're hanging in the air, so we have air moving under us in the hammock. It's kind of a different, basically when you've slept in a tent all your life, I've learned this through doing videos and researching, is we use a pad for comfort, but it's as the earth is cooling. I'll talk in my yoga voice. As the sun sets and the earth cools from the warmth of the day, then
Yeah.
that cold goes up into your body, and that pad just keeps that from happening for the most part. Um, Less with a pad is it taking your body heat and using it, but with an underquilt, I tell people, well, it's like a down jacket. When you get in an underquilt, and most of them are goose down, it's taking the heat you have in your body and holding it. So in winter camping particularly, I say, do not crawl on that hammock freezing cold. You go over there and do 5 minutes of jumping jacks or running in place, mess with your tarp, take a walk around the perimeter of the camp, get a little bit warm, get your feet warm, because if you go in cold, you're going to be cold because the
Yep.
down doesn't warm you up. It's trapping your body heat. And people go, oh, could you say that again? um, so I think it took me a long time to trust underquilts. They weren't common when I first got in. People were making their own. So I made Frankenquilt, but I
Yep.
used a pad with it because I just didn't trust it. And then I finally on a trip just took the pad out and slept in the underquilt. And I was going, what have I been doing? Because it gives you the hammock comfort, no condensation. That said, the underquilt to me is the make a break point for a new hammocker. They may get up to the point of their insulation and decide to get an underquilt and
Yep.
struggle with it. I have a lot of videos on how to set them up because you can't have a gap. There's a lot of little things with an underquilt, but once you get it right, and you may get it right the first time, if you watch my video on underquilts, I have 37. And
Yep.
it's just not having any gaps. And when you get it right, it is the best. Your comfort increases. Now, that said, I've met some people that find pads way more comfortable for them because of back issues or different things. So it's like all hammock stuff. It's a little subjective. What works for the majority of people may not work for certain people. So
Yep.
I hate to break it to you, but you're just going to have to try some of this stuff. You're
Yep.
just going to have to try, and then you'll know.
Yep.
So
For
that's
sure.
and underquilt's a little expensive. And for backpackers, I always go get a partial. Like to go back to when you were asking about the gear for the seasons, for summer, I use partial under quilts, like a 3/4.
Yep.
If you buy wood, it takes a little less space in your pack because it's all about real estate for backpacking in your pack. And put a little Thermarest sit pad, barely inflated. I put it inside my top quilt under my feet because then I don't get any condensation. If I put it under my top quilt in the hammock, I've had condensation. That could
Yep.
just be me and my feet. I don't know. But so if you get a partial, they're a little less expensive because it's less down, less fabric, and less everything. And you go to a full length. I'll move to full lengths once we start getting into very late fall, winter here, and we're getting down to 30 degrees and stuff. So
Yeah.
I I just I love underquilts.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Sorry, Chris. I didn't realize that was Ed's wife. Well, I don't think I've really technically met her, so I apologize. But nice for you to come in anyways. I appreciate you correcting me, Ed. I thank you very much. Appreciate you both. Chris does have a good. She says, I love my underquilt because once you have it in the sweet spot, you don't have to worry about it slipping like a sleeping pad. Yeah.
So true. I have found with underquilts, I tell people, like when you first get in, and then maybe you know how you get in a hammock. Sometimes you're all set, get all comfortable. You're in 5 minutes. You go, now I got to pee because I'm so excited. So you get up and go pee, and you come back in, and you have to reach over and pull it. But I find somewhere in the night, the underquilt kind of gets a memory. Like I get back in, and it stays like right where it is on my shoulder. But I think I've gotten used to getting back in and keeping it there. But she's right. You don't have to fiddle with it much once you get it set for you. But that does, for a lot of people, take some time to get.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. I've done the closed cell pads and the inflatable pads, and you do get condensation any time of the year, really, even in the winter. I do.
I tried a wool blanket inside my hammock in the beginning, but it was bunching up under me a lot, and I'm one of those ones, I have to get in there, and then my underwear band can't have a twist in it. I got to get myself all regulated. As sloppy as I am, I do have some certain priorities,
Yep.
And
that's a pretty good priority.
Hang Tight Heat Secret 20 is one of the. Oh, I love. Hey, Hang Tight guys are great, man. I've really become good friends with Steve and got to know Monica this year. I'll tell you this about Steve, who owns Hang Tight. He is just a good guy, man. Just beyond him and I, when we talk, we never talk about hammocks. We talk about everything else in life: food, candy, stuff, instruments. We never talk about hammocks. Like he's going, I don't really want to talk about hammocks to you. It's right over there if you want to look at it. And I just love that. He's a good guy.
That's awesome. Hi, Foothills. I appreciate you coming in.
Hello.
Yeah, we've had a lot of good questions here, so I think I'll move on.
I think these are all really, really good questions. I'm going to keep this sheet around because I might have to refer back to it myself.
Yeah, that's kind of why I like doing the lives with the interactions. It's kind of hard sometimes to get through the outline, but it's good because I want to interact. That's what we're doing this for, is everybody else. We want to.
Me and you talking, and I'll tell people, like when I do a video, most of my videos, if I see somebody, okay, I'll say the problem of the week was continual ridge line or off the end of the D rings for a tarp or whatever. I'll go, I'm going to do a video on that, but I have to go back and often kind of reteach myself how to do some things that I'm going to show. So I don't use a continual ridge line, but I have one. So I'll get it out and play with it for, half an hour and familiarize myself and go, oh yeah, it's been like 4 months since I tied a trucker's hitch. Let me just do that before I waste camera time. And then let me make sure I get my hands out of the way of the knot. Because I used to, when I first started, here's how you tie this. And it'd just be hands going, whoa, that's how you do it. Well, good for you. And so I need to see it slowly with your hands out of the way. But try to keep all that stuff in mind.
For sure. I mean, that's another thing when you get into hammocking and tarp, doing your tarp configurations and everything. I mean, you only need basic knots. You don't need to get too, I tell people they try to get too fancy with all their knots and everything. I mean,
you're right. You don't need the thing about doing YouTube videos, people come up and go, well, Shug, could you identify all the trees for us in the area? I'll go, well, that's a green leaf one, and that's that one I know is a beech, but that's a dead one, and that's a pretty one, and I don't know all that stuff. It's like I'm just a camper. It's like I just do videos. It doesn't mean I know anything. I will take the time to learn it and help you, because I had teachers that would do that for me in high school, and I know how I responded to people that teach me. And there's some people that don't care for me. They've
Yeah.
told me, and not even in a mean way. They just go, "There's just too much of you," and I'm going, "Well," I go, let me teach you that you can skip through a video and skip me, but I said I can't do it. I tried doing just the facts video, then I
Yeah.
don't have any fun.
Nope.
So, and I get what they say. I go back to some of my old videos and go, oh man, that was a lot of me. And my daughter always says that. She says, Dad, aren't you a little horrified every time you upload a video and wait to see it? Go, yeah, a little bit. There's always a little bit of like, I should have taken that one bit out, but I had to leave it in for myself. Just
Uh,
you can never please them all, but you can please
nope.
most.
For sure. For sure. Well, I mean, like I said, your personality, I like when you do all the little bloopers and the funny segments. I mean, it shows your personality. Like you say, you can't satisfy everybody. I mean, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
It's like getting a bad comment. Always, and that would happen in show business. It's like, quit focusing on the bad one and look at all the good ones you just got. Like, why are you
Absolutely.
letting one person affect you that way? It's
Yep.
human nature,
Yep.
because I hate to say it, I have people pleaser disease. I've always been. Circus clowns have that. I want to please everybody. And
Yep.
it's awful. I wish I had criminal elements sometimes. I was joking at a party going, yeah, I wish I had a little criminal element. People go, what do you mean by that? I'm going, I don't know. I wish I was one of those people that could scam, but I could never even steal a Baby Ruth bar at a 7-Eleven. I go, hey, man, I'll just be the getaway driver when all my college friends were getting stuff. I'll just be the driver. That I'm not included, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
this stuff. Well, yeah, Herbert, I should do a downloadable PDF of hammock tips and do's and don'ts, but I'm I'll tell you, I'm just a lazy man. And I got into all my jobs in life because when we had our job fair in my high school, first thing I did, I stood in the middle of the room and I said, who of all you people offering us a career has the least paperwork? And there was a little circus guy in the corner going, we don't have very much. You'll get to wear tights and spangles and juggle. And I said, I'm with you. So I will always refer people to like Derek Hansen with his book, the Ultimate Hang, because he has all that stuff. But
Yep.
I mean, I have a collection of junk, but I'm better. I just prefer to just talk it, because when I tell people I'm lazy, I go, yeah, I'm kind of a lazy guy at heart, but I'll consider it. But I'm doing all the writing I can because I'm writing my circus memoirs. So, at the end, after an hour of writing, I'm like, I can't, I can talk. I can't write it. I'll do a video. I'd rather do a video and show people
Yep.
than type it out and then correct all my spelling and have that one word that it won't let you spell it the way you want to spell it. So
Absolutely. Spell correct is it murders your videos or your texting. You always text the wrong thing. All right. Next question I got for you. What's your favorite accessory that improves comfort and functionality in hammock setup?
Well, I think again that comes down to learning your setup and this finding that setup you like. But there's some little add-ons, like no matter what hammock I get, and even with my war bonnet hammocks, I use the El Dorado because it doesn't have the shelf. Because I never used the shelf because I had made this little ridgeline organizer and I move it from hammock to hammock. It looks like it's smiling. I didn't plan
Yep.
it that way, but people go, hey, your ridgeline organizer smiling, and everything goes there.
Yep.
And that makes I can drop everything in there. But the other little
Yep.
piece of gear, and Tommy was at the HangCon Europe. It's a little table. It's called Schwarze Bane. It means black bee, and it's a little hammock table I use. But the best part of it, it comes in this little canvas bag, and that little bag is particularly winter camping. I throw headlamp, thin mint, your matches, a lighter, a cigar, just my little small knife, all the little things I'm always needing and I have to go root around for. They're all in this little, 12 by 10 canvas bag that I could just move anywhere. I keep it at the edge of my tarp rather than having to duck in my tarp and go in there and look for it. And to me, that's been a lifesaver. Just so I know where my headlamp's going to be at night. I just know where all my little, if I got to drop some, Rolaids, the stuff in my pocket, just those little things that you're constantly looking for. That's, I know it's not a hammock thing, but I really relate it to my hammock and just having that little table for the morning. And yeah, they're expensive and, you can make your own, but I always tell people, and a lot of people bought them in Denmark. I said, here's the problem again with this table is once you use it, you're always going to want to use it. So in the morning when I'm having my medagliadora from the hammock, instead of reaching way down to the ground, it's just right there. And so is my fancy feast stove. And so that's just added a little bit of couth and class to my hammock camping because my friends know I'm a dandy, and I know what a dandy is. I'm born in Ireland. Like I feel like I, if I lived in a kingdom, I would somehow become friends with the king. I don't want to be a lord or a duke or anything. I just want to be the king's friend. And he goes, why don't you come and just have dinner with us all too? And you're the one that goes over to the king going, are you really going to say that, Your Highness? Did you take a look in the mirror before you came out? Man, you need to go in there and like comb your hair. That guy, that friend that can come up and tell you, but you're getting to enjoy all the stuff. So a dandy's sort of like, you think you belong in a stately mansion, but you're probably downstairs in the kitchen cooking barbecue for people. So I'm a dandy. Proudly.
Chris says, I've been camping my whole life. I've gone from tents to campers, back to tents, but by far the best sleep I've ever had is in a hammock, and I will never camp another way.
That right there, that statement, when someone says that is everything about hammock camping. People ask me if I hate tents personally. I go, no, I have a Henry Shire's tarp tent that I've never used. I bought it thinking I was going to go on this desert walk and it didn't happen. But I've often thought of doing this video. So Shug goes out and I do like 2 nights in a tent and 2 nights in a hammock. And what do I like best? Well, that'd be a stupid video. I know what I'm going to like best because I sleep. I mean, honestly, when I tell people I sleep 10 to 12 hours winter camping, they think I'm kidding. I go, I'm not. Dark at 4:30, so I'm in that hammock and it's cold. It's minus 26. I'm in that hammock by 7, and then it doesn't get light till like 7:45. And the worst thing in the world is getting up in the dark when you're warm and toasty because you think you could be getting up to do it, and you're looking at the thermometer and it's like minus 29 and making breakfast in the dark. It's like, no, I will not do that to myself. I literally sleep for 12 hours. And I mean, good sleep, vivid dreams, warm, at peace. And I don't get that at home. So I agree with Chris. It's just, it's the best sleep ever.
Yep. And I know it's not for everyone, and I've kind of talked about that in some of my hammock lives that I've done, and for sure it's not. But I mean, I truly believe that anybody, no matter your sleeping habits, if you get the right setup and go through the homework like you say to do, you can sleep. Anybody can sleep comfortable in a hammock. They just got to figure it out.
If they're willing to go through all the steps and figure it out. And that is the thing. I did a big video once on the hammock learning curve, and I went out there and I just started spitballing, and I go back and watch it sometimes too. I was gathering some notes from that video for Denmark, and it's like one thing leads to another of like getting right, of prepping right. Whereas, if you've got a tent and you've got a sleeping bag in your pad, and let's just say they're all in the rating you're going to go, whether it's a cool fall night or a summer night, you pitch the tent, you put your rain fly on, you maybe arrange your pack, you put your pad in, you put your sleeping bag on it, and you're pretty much done. That's how you're going to sleep, and you're probably going to sleep great. But I never really, thinking back, I probably never slept more than 5 or 6 hours in a tent before I was ready to sort of get up. And and when the hammock, I don't want to get out.
Yeah, I don't either. That's kind of the way I am. I sleep so good, even better than my own home. So, hey, 2 guys, thanks for coming in. I appreciate you, buddy. Have a good night at work.
Hey, two guys. Or bye-bye.
He's another guy that we say is kind of the Midwest meetup we do once a year. He's one of the 7 of us that meet up. Minnesota Mike and Adam from Minnesota come down, and Ozark's Great Adventures and Ozark's Woodsman and Herbert T and all of us,
Isn't
2
that
guys.
fun though? You meet a
Yeah.
group of guys through a passion. I don't even know whether to call hammock camping a hobby. I mean, most of us have camped in scouts or church groups or your parents or you discovered it in college, however you did.
Yeah.
It becomes, if you really like camping, it does become a thing that you have to have in your life. Like you're going to make time for it. And I know the average working person may only get like a couple of chunks of time a year for vacation, and maybe one of those chunks is with family and the other one is like, okay, I'm going camping with Herbert T. I just want to meet some guys in the woods I'm comfortable with. We eat well, we get along, we sleep well. And I always like, everybody I've camped with go, you have to spend some time with people around a campfire, have a couple of days to really kind of talk about real things.
Yeah.
You can take it further than just hey, how are your kids? They're great. How about yours? They're great. It's like really talk about them, and maybe you have something that you keep it inside. You just like to mention it to some people you trust, bugging you or whatever. You can kind of sometimes find the time in those situations to
Yep.
to do that. And I think sometimes just by voicing it and have a few people listening, you already feel better about it. So it's almost like going camping is almost like going to get your own personal therapy sometimes and
Yep.
just checking
For
in
sure.
with your true you.
Yep. What the campfire chats are all about. I enjoy that part of it for sure.
Yeah.
Ed Chaos says, David, what's your favorite preferred suspension? Well, it's kind of runs along with that's kind of why I chose the one wind setup, because of the whoopee sling and then the buckle system. The buckle system, I like the tree straps that are just straight tree straps that go through the buckle and slip through. I went through the Atlas straps with the loops, and those are fine and dandy to start out with, but you really can't fine tune
That little
your
micro
hang.
adjustment, where
Yeah,
you just, I need like an eighth of an inch or 3/16 just to find
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
But they're easy and they work.
yeah.
And then
Any
you can
kind of
focus on other things.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of learned that from you. And I'm kind of like you. I like my head lower, so you slide down in. You're not pulling yourself up at night. And I like sinking down in my hammock where you're not moving. Because if your feet's lower, you're always trying to pull yourself up. You're trying
You're kind of sliding out that end. And,
yeah,
that's that thing I was thinking about. I'm probably going to, thinking about doing a little hammock series of real quick. It's hard for me to make a 3-minute video. I get out there and start playing around, but I'm thinking like a little series of just 3-minute
yep,
videos on all the hammock things I've kind of covered. But you realize if you did a video on something 7 years ago, it gets kind of buried. New
yep,
viewers are usually watching your new stuff. But
yep,
someone like me, if I discover someone, I will go into their backlog and like, let me see what they were doing way back. But it's that
absolutely.
thing, and it's in the war bonnet site is when I got my first war bonnet. And if you really read his instructions that are kind of hidden in his site, it's that thing. If you've got 2 trees here and this is your head end right here, it's so your hammock is here. It's kind of like having this is it's backwards doing this on the camera. You want your foot end strap to be closer to this tree.
Yep.
A little extra strap here that so you do kind of sink down with your body mass. And it's the people that go, well, you guys aren't really laying flat. And I go, there's an illusion, I think. Like I'm
Yep.
in there and I'm going, I feel very flat. And if I've taken pictures and looked at my shadow, and it's like, well, your buttocks and your back are always down low. It's like laying on your mattress in bed when they show those mattresses, the butt and back are down, the knees are up, the heels are down. Like we're flat, but we're not like flat like a like a 2x6,
Yep.
So flat is relative, but some people just, some people in this world you just can't convince that the hammock's comfortable. I think they're stupid. And I'm going, okay, well, my hammock told me they thought, you weren't the brightest bulb in the world. So
Yeah, you can't convince everybody of everything. I mean, everybody's stuck in their ways and certain things. So, I mean,
that's what you said earlier. I don't really want everybody to be in the hammocks. I mean, I think we're a growing group, but we'll
Yeah.
never be the mainstream campers. It's like
No.
being a unicyclist all my life. You're never mainstream as a unicyclist. You're always going to be a little offshoot. People make a little bit of sport of you from time to time. Uh, and hammock campers, like if we're all hammock campers, well, I don't know. We need that diversity, and there's just a lot of people that will bring a hammock and hang around in it at their camp for the day, seeing that,
Yep.
but they would never consider sleeping out in it. Never even crossed their mind.
Yep. Yep. And I have hammocks for lounging too that I don't camp in. So, I mean, it's nice. I mean, you can lounge in your own hammock, but if I'm going not backpacking, I'll bring a lounging hammock every time. So,
Yeah, it doesn't have, one without a ridge line. It's not in anybody's way. It's just a standard hammock. And it's like I did a little video on the types of thing. And it's like my nephew Oliver, he goes mocking, they call it. They meet in the park, they hang their hammocks. They're not spending the night. They got their laptops and their books, and you're trying to get somebody in there sitting sideways to sit next to you. They're just hanging out in them for 4 or 5 hours.
yep.
And I love that. Now I don't have the time to do that a lot. It's like me. I'm a guy. I don't even like day hiking in the woods because I'm like, what's the point of being out here if I can't sleep out here? This
Yep.
is just a tease. It's just teasing. That's a great spot. That's a great. Oh, look at that spot by the river. It's like, hell, I can walk. I can do chores and walk back and forth from my dock back up carrying tools if I want to walk, but I want to go out there and sleep. It's been a
Yep.
couple of days.
For sure. For sure. Try and adjust the tent, Ed says. Huh. Yeah, for sure. I mean, a tent's a tent. You throw it up and you're stuck with what you got, except
Kind
for
of
the
on
rain
slope
fly.
what you're on, and that's another thing. It's a point that it doesn't come up a lot, and I always tell people, and I go, the thing about hammocks, besides earlier I said, and I think we all know the restorative nature of the hammock, like, and they go, what do you mean by that? I go, well, if I put in a long day backpacking, and I'm older now, and you just kind of got the camp legs, you just sort of feel like I'm a little bit stove up, and you get in that hammock and sleep. I wake up, the soreness is gone. I mean,
Yep.
I say, I'm not kidding when I feel like a 47-year-old. And they go, well, that's kind of old. And I go, no, if I could go back to 47, that feels young. But what it is, when we sleep in our hammocks, we have this consistency every night. Now, we're
Yep.
not on a root or a rock. And sure, your hang might change, your tree spacing and all that, but you're still wearing that hammock, and you find yourself in there going, like, if Hickory and I are on some 8-day trips, and people go, well, those trees didn't seem like they were 15 feet apart. I go, they'll never be the perfect spacing.
Yep.
And I said, mine were really close. So I'm taking my continual loop and hooking it on my tree strap rather than my whoopee sling. It was a suboptimal hang, but I was still so comfortable. And with every night, you kind of care a little less and less because you just know you're going to sleep good.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
consistently,
Yep.
head and feet kind of the same height. And man, I don't think that gets talked about enough. Just that alone.
Yep.
No.
For sure. All right, Chris, good night. I appreciate you coming in and joining us tonight.
Yeah, 5 a.m. does come early.
Yep.
Early.
And Daniel, I appreciate you, brother, coming in.
Yeah, I got to go too. I'll see you, Daniel. I'm out of here.
And I will continue. I'll just have to answer my own questions. Yeah. I'm kind of getting slow through. I guess we got to pick up the pace. Everybody's going to.
How about I start just answering them?
There you go.
So the next one is, how do you optimize your hammock system for ultralight backpacking? Now, I have thoughts on ultralight, and I went through this on a podcast not long ago. I went through my ultralight phase of using a sleeping bag that I sort of cut the zipper out to use it like a top quilt. It was never rated for the temperatures. I was always cold. I was sleeping under a tarp, just on a pad. I was eating spirulina tablets instead of food. I wasn't bringing candy. I was awake in the middle of the night doing stomach crunches. I was getting up at 4 a.m., walking circles to warm myself up around camp like I was in the movie Midnight Express. And I was really proud of getting all my weight down to that. But honestly, I missed some of my comforts. And it kind of led me back to the hammock camping, which I go, you can do it ultralight, but I think a lot of factors come in, like what season of the year do you camp?
Yep.
If you're ultralighting in summer, it's way easier. You don't need insulation as
Yep.
much. You don't need to carry down jackets and wool sweaters. Depends on what state you live in and what the weather is. It
Yep.
depends on your personal comfort. So I think when you get to UL and people have these things, well, you know, your base weight's 10 pounds and all that. It's like, I've met some ULers who told me I camped heavy, but then I camped with them and realized they carry 5 knives because they're knife maniacs. I'm going, so you carry 5 knives, and you're getting on me about, you know, the candy bars I'm carrying, and I see you staring at them when I always offer you a bite. Not that I want to, but you
Yep.
look up. So I don't, you know, I think I don't consider myself ultralight. I did it already because I went through the journey. My gear just became lighter, getting into
Yep.
lighter backpacks like my ULAs. If you're going to get ultralight in hammocks, a lot of guys like my friend Turk, I said, man, you got to upgrade. You're carrying that old, it's the synthetic sleeping bag you had in college, and it's this big, and it weighed like 8 pounds. I said, you got to
Yeah.
get rid of that. You can get a top quilt that weighs, you know, 1.5 pounds, or depending on the rating you want, you know, or less or
Yeah.
more. But so I think the ultralight, people worry if they're coming from ultralight and they want to get into hammocks and they stress with it. I've talking to a guy recently who was he was worried about the bulk of his pack and stuff, and I said, look, here's the thing. All right, I understand your fear of adding weight,
Yep.
but at some point in your life, I said, you're still a young guy. You're going to hit an age where you want a little more comfort back
Yep.
in your camping, and you're going to be willing to sort of carry it. And the hammock, you can get it if you get a really short, like hummingbird hammock that's 9 feet. And if you want to use the thinnest, you know, like I've never gotten into that super lightweight suspension because my thing is going, what I do not, my biggest fear in hammock camping is my suspension breaking in the
Yep.
night. And I'm like, it's having such a dream. It's like suspension's not that heavy. There's other places to save weight, you know,
Yep.
and some of that comes down to knives, or do you, if people carry a firearm, or if you've got an old heavy pack. And I know some military guys who insist they have to carry 200 pounds. And when you really don't. But
No.
if you want me to just stop and yell at you and berate you once in a while, like a sergeant, I'll gladly do it. But you can go lighter. You know, I don't think we're going to be getting shot at out there. We don't need to carry a mortar, you know, but I will
Yeah.
be the forward observer if we have to, because I like just being alone. And but there's so many things to UL, and I think when you get in the hammocks, it's like kind of forget about it. Get as light as you can that you can live with.
Yep.
But I've noticed through the years I've added comforts back,
Yep.
but I will save that weight somewhere else if I can. So it's a complex thing to me. I think the word ultralight, we think of the people hiking the AT with the littlest pack, and I admire that. But when you get, like for me, 45, when I got to be 45, 50, I was going, I just want some comforts back, man.
Yep.
You know?
And it's what you're willing to carry, you know, like you're saying, how far you're going to go. You know, what are you willing to, you know, add for that comfort, you know? And for me, I'm the same way. I'm 50 now, and I want some comforts more so than weight.
Absolutely. And we've all done that thing. Like every time, like I'll pack my pack. I don't weigh my stuff. People always ask me, what does it weigh? I go, I never weigh it anymore. I went through all that weighing phase. I know about what my stuff weighs.
Yep.
And I pick it up, and there's this magic where you pick your pack up, and by the time it's on my back and you've got a good fitting pack, I don't feel the weight that much. Now, I might feel it at 3:30 in the afternoon. That's when me and Hickory, the Maple King, might be hiking along. And we've been chatting all day, and then it starts to get quiet. And there'll be an hour of just us with tight lips walking along. And I go, not so chatty now, are we? Like, you know, you just want to get to camp, and, you know, you got 2 more hours. But,
Yep.
you know, no one's making you walk the miles, and particularly when you do a solo. So we have choices, but I think it's this internal thing, like, gotta go, gotta make the miles. And I've had the thing where I've walked 20 miles or 17 miles and had a beautiful campsite. And I passed beautiful campsites all day. And then I get to this little rinky-dink, stinky campsite after going that far, going, what's the point? You know, so it's complicated. But I think if you're going to get into hammocks, and then as the seasons get a little colder, I did a video on comparing the weights, and you can get it similar, but the hammock's always going to be just a little bit more. But look what you get with it. You know,
Yep.
you have to factor that in.
Yep.
That sleep. Sometimes it's just as simple as joy. You just like it, and there's nothing wrong with just. What's your reason? I just like it. You don't have any other reason? No, I just like it. That's what I like.
Absolutely.
I don't want to carry what I don't like. I want to do what I like. Well, you sure make a lot of time for yourself, don't you, Shug? Well, yes, I do. And you could too. No, here's the thing. I've said this, and people have said, Shug, you're kind of a clown, but that was kind of profound. I go, nobody ever gives you the gift of time. Like I go, here, David, here's 48 hours. You can have this. You can't hand that over to anybody. You have to make that time. You finesse your wife and your kids. And I always tell people, leave your gear out. Talk about that trip for 2 weeks. Build it up so that when you go, it's not a surprise. Talk yourself into it and carve that time out, because no one's ever going to hand you time. It just doesn't work that way.
Nope.
That's pretty deep. I'm going to let you folks think about that a minute. You just take a minute, you
might
out, scratch your little chin. Yeah, that's true.
After the live's over, you can replay it as many times as you need to.
Go to bed thinking about that one tonight. Just time in general. No one can give you time. They can give you time on Earth. There's certain people that can do that. But as far as our own personal thing, when you look at, I've often thought when I looked at my hobbies, well, I can play an instrument, sit down and play for an hour, or play for 4 hours, or I can do other hobbies I have here at the house. Go fly control line planes for 5 hours. But a camping trip's usually going to take you, 24 to, it depends on how many days you go, but you have to take a chunk of time to go, like a vacation with your family or any vacation. So you break your hobbies down or your passions into these time limits. You got the ones you can do in a day, and you got the ones that take a little more time. And I want y'all to think about that too. Think what you do, and then as you get older, you got to think this hobby might have to go away, but I can always play music, and then I just can hike shorter as I get older. The woods are the woods, right?
That's right. How about what are the best knot tying techniques for securing your hammocks and tarps?
Okay, so we had mentioned that earlier. The knot I use for my guy lines, usually for hooking up my whoopee slings to my tog. The marlin spike I use all the time. And then people get into their tarps, and I go, hey, you can get as complicated as you want, but I've shown people, they go, I can't do knots. I say, do the timber hitch. You take your guy line, which usually sticks to bark pretty well. You ever had that thing where you just kind of laid your line over to go do the other end? You're going, it's actually holding.
Yeah.
You just wrap your line around the tree, and then you just kind of twist it through. It's not even a knot, and it will hold your tarp.
Yeah.
Or a trucker's hitch, or Dutch wear gear, or one that I call it the Filipino tightening knot, because I learned it from a Filipino friend. It's just you don't need, like you said, if you're a knot person, knock yourself out. And the other one is just using bites and lark's heads, just tying a loop at the end of a cord and looping that through your, for your ridge line, you're making a lark's head, but the actual loop where you just tie like a little square knot, that's called a bite. And then you just loop the other end through it and use that for tarps easily for certain things. That's a really common knot. And the trucker hitch or the Beckett hitch is a really good one for rigging. And beyond that, I haven't really, and the sort of what was the Hennessy lash knot, where you go over and under, wrap like 4 times and just slippery half hitch off. That's not going anywhere. Honestly, square knot, I don't use a bowline a lot. A bowline, occasionally if I have to tie 2 ropes together for something bigger, but really you can get away with not a lot of knots.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
But they're fun to learn. And if you camp with someone that's one of those knotty people that just love showing you knots, and nothing better than sitting there and learning a new knot.
Yep. There's always going to be one guy that loves showing people knots, and that they know 100 different knots, and that's great.
They were that scout that they were Eagle Scout. They learned all the knots, and they still know the knots. And I go, do you know the marlin spike? I could tie it behind my back. I could do it blindfolded. I can tie it backwards. I can tie it right-handed. I can tie it left-handed. I can do a headstand and tie it. I can tie it with my teeth if I was in a situation. And they go, no, you can't. I go, no, I can't. But
All right. Hey, Herbert, thanks for stopping by, brother. I know it's getting late for everybody, so I
yeah, I know it's
appreciate
a lot of me,
everybody.
Herbert. I would have left an hour ago. Good luck to you.
Well, they're used to me. I'm either doing an hour or 2 hours. If I'm doing an outline, it's usually 2 hours. I usually don't try to go over 2 hours,
Well,
but
we're getting through the questions here. I'm glad we're not skipping any. All right, so this
yeah.
question, I'm going to jump to it. Can you
Okay.
share a challenging situation you faced while using a hammock or how to overcome it? And I've never really had, luckily, I haven't gotten into a situation of dire straits or anything, but when I was first in the hammocks and I cobbled together this under quilt and stuff, and I did a -26 hammock camping trip. And that night, the first night laying in the hammock, I was cold. I was eating. I had not Maltesers, but malt balls, Whoppers, because
Yeah.
they're easy to eat in winter. You can't eat a Snickers bar in a frozen Minnesota winter. You got to put it under your armpit for an hour and temper that baby. And I was laying there cold, and I got to the night. I mean, I wasn't shivering. I wasn't uncomfortable. I was just going, I'm definitely not warm. And I could hear the trees cracking, and I go, it's worth it to kind of, I'll see in the morning what I'm doing wrong. But it wasn't anything wrong. It was just my equipment was really not up to that task of
Yeah.
-26. So taught me a lot. It taught me a lot about prepping for the next one. So that was my only really kind of challenging time of just, I did sleep through the night some, but my feet were cold, basically. My feet were the coldest thing, and I just could not get them warm. And I realized my feet were cold when I went to sleep. And, so that was one I'll always tell new people. So if you're a new hammocker, listen to this. This is a really good one. Old man taught me this once. He said, Sean, when you go out and do something, we tend to focus on what we do wrong. But take yourself a little piece of paper out there when you camp or play bass or whatever it is. Make your little notes and you write 5 things that maybe you did wrong, but write 5 things that you did right. Like I did not die. Okay, that's always number one. I did not die. You didn't cut your leg open, but you
Yeah.
might have failed on a couple of your hammock techniques. But at the end of the day, it's a good story. It's the one
Right.
you'll be telling. You had fun. I think we all come back from camping trips just feeling more like self-sufficient as humans. Like
Yep.
this is something we can do. We can improvise out there. And people ask me if I'm a survivalist. I go, oh no, I have those skills. I have
Yeah.
voice skills. I have a lot of skills I don't show, but I'm lazy. If I had to use those skills in a situation that may be, what was the word, challenging or even
Yeah.
dire, I could pull them out. But I'm going, everything I have is in my backpack. I'm
Yep.
going out, not like I'm going out, I'm not logging. I'm not doing, it's not like when I go to the northern Minnesota when people were working up there. There was work at building railroad tracks. We're choosing to go for this walk in the woods with all
Yep.
of our stuff. So, yes, stuff could go wrong, but we're not, you know, it's all right there. So it's just a different perspective, I think, these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it kind of boils down to like what you touched on earlier too, is being prepared. I mean, going out, um, you know, you can overcome a lot of those challenges that you'll face. I mean, you're going to face them regardless when you're new, but
Yes.
once you're seasoned, that's part of not forgetting gear that's important. I mean, it's gonna run your whole trip if you forget something and you're cold. I
But
mean,
but when you do and you have to improvise, it's either turn tail and go home or go, how can I work around this? There's a
yep,
real power in having to sort of improvise a fix. We've all broken a tent pole or something and you fix it or whatever may happen. But that's a fun and powerful thing to do.
yep,
And my wife and a lot of people always told me I'm over analytic. I think everything through, I process, and I do, because that way I
yep,
go, I'm prepared 80%.
yep,
Like, I can't, the other 20% is sort of up in the air, maybe 50%, but I feel like I'm ready to deal with it if I stay cool and, don't blow my top, and just I can probably work my way through it. Might
Yep.
not be the most comfortable night, but it will make great video and it'll be a great story. And at the end of the day, you go, I handled it. So it means I can handle things in real life. It's
Yep.
that, we kind of need that. We've all heard that, they were even talking about that in Denmark. We've gotten comfortable as humans and we don't have to make our own soap and sew our own clothes and do all that stuff like your great grandma and all that did. We can just go buy it. So it's kind of cool to go out there and realize, oh yeah, I can deal with the situation. There may be
Yeah.
some that arise that I couldn't, but I haven't had it yet. And how would I know till it happens? So, you know,
Absolutely.
so you want to know
Absolutely.
my go-to hammock these days, right? That's the next
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Or I mean, we kind of went over that. I mean, if you want to answer that, that's fine. But
The
we
three
kind.
I'm pulling the most are my Majestic, my Superior Gear hammocks, 100% for the winter with that
Yeah.
sewn in underquilt. You never have it shifting. You never have to pull it up. I mean, if you live in Minnesota and you winter camp, I tell everybody you should just make that investment. Quit trying to cobble things together. And then, when I go, I'll say, well, we'll debrief in the morning. And then they come walking up and go, how'd you sleep? Oh, pretty good. I go, what's the high voice? I go, my favorite cold. So that, and then really the advice, what would you give to someone looking to transition from tent camping to full-time hammock camping? And it's a few of the things we talked about, mainly patience. Just
Yeah.
be patient. And I'm not a patient person. It's like, just learn to one piece at a time, because there's a lot of little bits and pieces from suspensions to the hammock to the tarp, but allow yourself to have some fun with it. And
Yeah.
that's not easy. That's not easy for me to do either. It's like, but enjoy that process, because remember this, we only get to be new at something once in life. And
Yeah.
I often wish I could go back to the beginning and start hammocks again and go through that process, because, it changed my life. Here I am, like, got into them in 2006. I'm still doing it. I'm still doing videos on it. I still hammock camp. And
Yeah.
so, we can only be new at something once. And as we age, the only way to be new is take up something brand new with the risk that maybe you suck at it. The other
Yeah.
one is you may be great at it. So, it's kind of a crapshoot. And the other thing to think about full-time hammocking is just think of the temperatures in your areas, the trees. People talk about living out in Washington State, Oregon. They have huge trees. You
Yeah.
may live in an area that doesn't, or some people in Kansas are going, we don't have a lot of trees. And I
Yeah.
suggested one, I said, well, if you can find one tree or one fence post, you can rig up sticks and stuff. But I said, I said, I've been using and brought it on several trips, the Tenza trekking trees,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
a hiking pole that will turn into a stand, and you have to stake it right. It's
Yeah.
not that heavy because you're using the pole, like even using it with my one black diamond flick lock and then using the Tenza carbon fiber pole. I was wondering if they feel weird together. Within 5 minutes on the trail, a pole's a pole.
Yeah.
And they totally work, and all you need is one tree. And there are more organic things you can do, like finding two sticks and crossing them, but you still need some line to stake out. However you get creative. If you're in the middle of a field, though, with nothing, you might just have to go to ground or go to the wood line if you can find it. So
Yeah.
it's sort of full-time hammocking. It's just keep your mind open, always be willing to learn and take on a new technique and research the area you're going to camp in. Like when you're
Yeah.
trip planning, I take a lot of trips. Just people ask why I go to the Superior Hiking Trail a lot. Well, it's 4 or 5 hours up the highway. I know it. It's free. I love the lay of the land. And I don't always want my trips to be a big deal where I got to get an airplane flight, ship equipment, find some people that know to take me or do it that way or rent a car. It's like, that's more than I'm willing to do. I just want to be in the woods and make a
Yeah.
little video and sleep in the woods. So I love, probably like a lot of us here, we see the same woods
Yeah.
over and over. I'm sure you do in your area. I love
Yeah.
seeing how woods change, or a trail looks
Absolutely.
different going in, and then you come out and it's a whole nother view coming out.
Yeah.
So,
Or after storms, and storms, it's different. Nature, it changes the woods that you frequent very often. So
totally, the winds will destroy it. It grows up, those hot summer days where it's so still and hot. You can hear the woods ticking like an old hot car hood that's just come by. The butterfly comes by going, I can't get any lift. So it's always something different. But I think through this, and I will honestly say that I think hammockers, we were talking about this at the hangs, the big hangs. You never really see tent people as much standing around talking about their tents as much as hammockers talk
Yep.
about their experience. So I think it's
Exactly.
that just, always, it's been a great lesson for me through all these years to, again, keep your mind open to learning new things. It's a fun way to learn it. Your
Absolutely.
hammock life will shift as you go through a little bit, and you'll probably come back more to where you started, like the bass playing, kind of coming back to the P bass after trying all these fancier pickups, going, that's just where I am right now. That's where my soul is talking, man. It's just that.
Yep, for
Yeah.
sure. Hey, Outdoors with Den, I appreciate you coming in. Hey, I see Lower Michigan Jimmy Boy. Appreciate you stopping by.
Hey, y'all.
Hope you guys are doing well tonight. We got through the outline that I had for you guys. You missed out, so if you want to check out the live afterwards and catch up on what you missed,
A lot
if
of
you
David asked me, he sent me this dossier here, 3 pages of really good questions. And you did. You asked like really good questions that are fun to talk about and really, I think, cover a lot of these aspects, not only for people that are kind of new to it, but all of us that have been doing it a while. We need to review this stuff sometimes and wonder, and just sometimes, you know, to talk philosophical for a second, I like to ask questions at camp like, what do you think it is about us as humans that do this that makes us like to go into the woods to camp and sleep? Like I've always felt, my answer is going, I feel like it's something deep inside. It's kind of primordial. It comes from way back. And, it's in us to go do it. And then we find that peace and we enjoy it. Uh, the other thing I used to say, it's kind of like I had done this talk once going, well, it's sort of like Christmas morning when you come out there, mom and Santa Claus has brought all these gifts and they're under the tree. And the Christmas stocking over there. And you go in the Christmas stocking, it might be a little piece of hardtack, a little dried up orange, or it might be that little game where you roll the baby in the bear's eye. But I always said that, like, when God is up there making us humans, and God knows I have a kind of a jokey relationship. It's like I always go, I think you only have like 5 or 7 molds of humans, kind of like Play-Doh, mix it up a little bit. But I think everybody gets a little gift. Bam, bam, bam. It might be music. It might be you're good at math. It might be that you love the woods. It could be that you're really good at growing tomatoes. But you get this gift
absolutely.
that's hidden in you that maybe you'll discover it in your life and maybe you won't. But it's the thing in your Christmas stocking. And I think all of
Yep.
us that do this, we have this gift of the woods. We're drawn to it. We feel peaceful there. Our
Yep.
We love seeing our friends there and just experiencing that time out there. And we know a
Yep.
lot of people
That's
that
what
I
it's
have
about.
friends that would never sleep a night in the woods. They don't like it.
Yep.
Just don't
So many
like it.
people are terrified. That's why I did a couple week ago or 2 weeks ago, I guess I did the camping fears live and talking about fears that people have, and that's kind of what I touched on earlier about the false sense of security when people say, "Well, I sleep in a tent because it's safer." It's like it's the same fabric.
Yeah. Or people ask me like, "Why do you go solo?" And I go, "Well, you get to a point in life where you're busy. I was always in show business, so I had weekdays free, and a lot of my friends that could
Yep.
go, they could only go on weekends, and it becomes
Weekends.
just sort of a matter of, some of your friends quit camping when they get older, and I was going, I like to do it, and people asked. I said, I wasn't uncomfortable the first time. It's a new experience, but I said I just
Yep.
practice sitting in the dark, just sit outside and on the fire pit bench and just turn off any light you have and just sit in the dark, and you realize same thing's happening in the dark that happens in the day. Well, don't the bears come out in dark? I said, no, I've seen most bears in the day. Like I
Yep.
think I think any boogeyman comes out day and night, but it's that thing. It's we're sort of naturally scared of the dark in the woods, but you realize you hear the same sounds. The river sounds the same.
Yep.
Sky is different. Uh, when you hear a sound in the woods and you think it's a bear and it ends up being a little mouse or a squirrel, they sound. It's just like just get used to it, and it's like don't. I told a friend of mine, I said, don't hike with worry. I never, and worry as a hiking partner, I never want to hike with because worry will bring you down. Just be alert, be
Yep.
vigilant, but you don't have to be like head on a swivel. And I've always likened it to we have a pontoon boat. We sold it a few years ago. But when you're the guy, when you're the captain of the pontoon boat, and you have a lot of people in the back, and you're driving around on the 4th of July, you look like you're having hey, you're talking to people, and you don't look, you're being vigilant, watching for swimmers, canoers, other boats, jet skiers, but your head's not on a swivel. You're
Yeah.
just looking for scat. You're just kind of scanning, but you got time to relax. And I say backpacking to me feels like that. We're just, you see bear sign, you go, okay, the bear's on this trail. They walk the trail too, but it doesn't look like it's today's poop. Looks like maybe a couple days ago, but I doubt it's like standing behind a tree waiting for me. Could happen, but if
you don't want to set your hammock up right on the trail where the bear poops at either. So
exactly, you don't want to be on an animal trail. So talk about the philosophy of backpacking for hours, beyond just the gear and the technical questions of a hammock, but the whys and the deeper meaning. I still ponder it all the time, just don't really have my answer yet, I may never have it.
Well, Shug, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. I'm probably going to cut it off here at 2 hours. I appreciate you getting through this outline with me. And
sounds good, because I've been smelling that pepperoni and onion pizza for 20 minutes.
Oh no!
See if I'm drooling.
You could have ate it and been answering questions while eating it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and it's. I went and checked out your YouTube site, and I saw you guys were camping in the woods near Walmart and stuff. And it's like, that's scary to me, because here's my fear. I've often thought about doing things like that. And I was telling Tony, like, I'm all comfortable. I'm laying there, and suddenly the flashlight's on. You got to get up and move. And I'm going, really, right now? Come on, it's 2 a.m, man. You're asking me to get out of this hammock? Seriously? What am I hurting? How about this? How about if you just let me sleep here, and I'll give you 3 free hours in your warehouse in the morning? I'll come, give me that pallet mover. I'll unload half a truck for you. Capiche? Are we good? No, you got to leave the premises right now. Oh, man.
Yeah, that's probably one of my biggest fears of hammock camping or stealth camping or anything is people. And, that wildlife and all that doesn't scare me. It's people, obviously. And that's sad, but it's reality nowadays.
It is reality. It's like, I think everybody has that. You have to, even when I'm hiking solo and I see hikers coming, whether they're older or young, I step to the side of the trail and I put my wrists up on my hiking poles like I would big bear. Hello, everybody. And just try to not look threatening, because when people meet an older man in the woods hiking solo, I can see they're like, oh, dude, that guy, the axe murderer is here. I guess I get it. You're just an older man hiking alone. Of course, you're the axe murderer in the woods, and so I try to just really, if they want to talk for a second, they don't. But some people in Minnesota just walk by me without eye contact or a head nod, just keep moving. And then I see them, they get about 20 steps up the trail, and the one in the back turns around and does that long look. Is he following us?
Yeah.
And I'm still standing there going, well, I'm just talking to nobody now. Feels kind of good on my wrists. And so, and I think that's part of being vigilant, just polite, just sort of reading the room a little bit sometimes, or reading the pasture or the woods. But yeah, I'm going to take off. I want to thank all the folks that came on to be a part of this. And thank you, David, for having me on and really asking some good questions. That was really made this fun for me.
All right, man. I know Tony came in. I appreciate you coming in, Tony. And
Tony, hey, man.
Sorry we hit the end of it here, but I got to let Shug go, and we've been here over a little 2 hours now, so he's got to go eat that pizza.
Yeah, shoot me an email, and when this is, well, it's live right now. That's right. I'll put it on my community stream on my site, so my subscribers will see it, and then I'll tag it. I'll tag it on the end of the canoe video in a few weeks, just because some people might not have seen it, and I'll just mention it on that.
I appreciate it, Shug. I really do. And we got to go out saying the most famous thing you like to say.
The thing I like to say real loud and proud. Woo!
Buddy!
I
appreciate you, Shug.
All right, Dave.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. I appreciate you. Thank you for coming in, Tony. I really appreciate you.
I'm taping the camera. close the lid. Good night,
All right.
everybody.
We'll see you guys next week. We will be here at 7 p.m. Central again. And I don't really have anybody set. Maybe I'll get somebody on here for next week. If not, I'll bring up a topic and we'll have open discussion. But I do appreciate everybody coming in. I really appreciate the support. If anybody hasn't given me a thumbs up before you leave, I really appreciate that. I appreciate everyone watching. And if you missed it, if you want to go back and watch it, I would thank you a million times over. We love you. God bless each and every one of you. And we will see you next week. And I hope to have a video up Tuesday, but I'm not for sure. So we'll see you next week. Bye, guys.